In this video, I'm going to show you how to use StockArkaLytics AI Insights step by step. Hi, I'm Annie from StockArkaLytics. If you're struggling with how to navigate StockArkaLytics AI Insights dashboard, this video shows you exactly what you need to do so that you can successfully use AI to analyze your stocks. Let's get started. So I'm going to start off at the homepage of StockArkaLytics.com. I'm going to walk you through what each section means on the AI Insights dashboard and how to actually use it. Quick note, this is not financial advice. It's a resource dashboard to help you make more informed decisions. So let's go ahead and just get started. I'm going to analyze a really easy stock, just Apple. So I'm going to go ahead and type in AAPL. It's going to take a few seconds to gather market insights. So go ahead and meet me back here once your insights have been gathered. All right, so this is the AI Insights dashboard on StockArkaLytics. Up here, you start with the stock ticker. So I used AAPL as the example. I'm going to hit Analyze, and the dashboard builds the full snapshot. Next to that, you'll see expiration and interval. Expiration matters when you're looking at anything options related, so you can focus on a specific date. Interval controls the time granularity, like daily, which affects the charts you'll see further down. And these toggles, like RSI and options, let you show or hide those specific modules in the analysis. Now right below, you'll get the company header. This is the name, the ticker, the location, plus sector and industry, so you always know what you're comparing it against. And the About the Company section is a quick fundamentals context block, useful if you're analyzing something new and want a fast refresher on what the company does. Now, this row is your Don't Make Me Scroll summary. It shows you just basic information about the stock, such as the current price, where the stock is trading right now, the sentiment score, which is a 0 to 100 composite score from our sentiment engine. Higher means more bullish conditions across the inputs that we track. Your analyst target is the consensus price target based on analyst coverage. Valuation includes market cap and enterprise value. Your 52-week range shows the recent high and low so that you can instantly see where price sits in the bigger range. And your fair value estimates give you intrinsic style estimates, like a DCF type value and an implied price model, so that you can compare market price versus modeled value. Now, inside the overview area, the first big block is the stock price forecast. This summarizes what analysts are implying overall, like the average target and the expected upside or downside from current price. On the right, key insights is just a quick bullet summary. This is meant to be the fastest way to understand the headline takeaways before you dive deeper. Now, this gauge is the analysis consensus, like buy/hold/sell, based on aggregated analyst ratings. And below that is a visual range, high, average, and low targets. Think of this as your expectations cone. Not a guarantee, just what the street is pricing in through targets. Now on the right side, you'll see two really useful pieces. First is the TLDR analyst action summary. This breaks down how many total actions happened across time windows like 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, and so on, and splits them into raises, lowers, and maintains. That's a clean way to see if sentiment is improving or deteriorating recently. Below that, you'll get firm-by-firm cards. Each card shows a bank or research firm, their price target progression over time, and the total change. This is where you can spot who's consistently moving targets up, who's cutting, and who's basically flat. Next is your consensus summary. This is a compact view of analyst consensus. Trimmed consensus price target helps reduce the impact of extreme outliers. Average rating tells you where the crowd sits on a scale like 1, strong buy, to 5, strong sell. And last 6 months actions shows the balance of raises versus lowers versus maintains. This is one of the quickest direction checks on analyst sentiment. Now this is the company evaluation score. This is a 0 to 100 score based on multiple metrics across fundamentals and momentum. You'll also see a simple label like buy, hold, or sell. That's a summary call based on the scoring model, not a trade signal. Under it, you'll get the category breakdown: profitability, growth, valuation, financial strength, and momentum, each with its own score. This is where you find why the overall score looks the way it does. If you want the exact math, this table shows it. Score is the raw score for that category or metric. Weight is how much that category matters in the final model. And contribution is the actual impact on the final score. So if something has a low score and a high weight, it's going to pull the final score down more. This section is the comprehensive sentiment score. It's also a 0 to 100 system, and you'll notice it mentions the point system being reweighted to 100, so you get a consistent scale. This big number is your sentiment reading, and the label, like neutral, helps interpret it quickly. Then you've got the component breakdown. For example, price/momentum and options. These little bars show you how much each component is contributing. If you open a component, you can see the underlying pieces that drove the score. Alright, so that was the overview tab. Now I'm going to scroll back up and we'll go through the next tab, which is deep analysis. This is where we break down analyst behavior, rating shifts, and price target momentum in more detail. At the top, you'll see AI-powered deep analysis. If you want the platform to generate a full write-up based on everything in this tab, ratings, targets, trend, direction, you can click Generate AI Report. This is useful when you want a clean summary you can read or save instead of scanning charts. This section is analyst ratings. It's meant to show the recommendation mix and trend over time. If you ever see no data available here, that's not an error on your side. It usually just means that the ticker doesn't have enough coverage in the specific feed or time window we're pulling for that view. But the key insights still come from the next panel, which is the rating breakdown by period. This is one of the most important parts, rating breakdown by period. On the left, you can pick different lookbacks, like 0 months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and for each period you'll see the average rating, the change, and the overall sentiment. Then, on the right, it splits the analyst opinions into counts: strong buy, hold, sell, or strong sell. So you can see if the distribution is shifting towards bullish or bearish over time. What I look for here is trend. Are buy ratings increasing and sell ratings decreasing, or is it the opposite? That gives you direction, not just a snapshot. Next is your recommendation trends. This chart turns those ratings into a visual over time. So instead of reading the table, you can instantly see whether analyst recommendations are drifting more bullish, more neutral, or more bearish. The legend on the right shows the color mapping: strong buy down to strong sell, so you can compare periods at a glance. If a period shows something like invalid date on the axis, that's a formatting issue in the label, not the underlying rating counts, so focus on the bar distribution and totals. Now this next section is price target analysis. This is where we track price targets as a time series and also summarize the actions behind them. First, you can change the time range, like 6 months, so you're not stuck looking at only one window. This top chart is the monthly median price target. We use median so one extreme target doesn't throw the whole trend off. If this line is trending upward over months, that typically means analysts are gradually lifting expectations. And below, you have price target actions, how many analysts raised, lowered, or maintained their targets in that same window. This is super actionable. If you see a lot of raises and very few lowers, that's a cleaner bullish signal than a single target number. So that's deep analysis, ratings distributions, how it's changing over time, and whether targets are trending up or down. Next, we'll go to financials, where we look at the company fundamentals more directly. So next up is the financials tab. This is where we move away from analyst opinions and look at the company's actual business performance, key valuation stats, profitability, earnings, execution, and trends over time. At the top, you'll see key financial statistics. This is your quick fundamental snapshot. Things like market cap, enterprise value, forward PE, price to book, profit margin, operating margin, return on assets, return on equity, revenue, net income, EPS, and beta. I use this section to answer 2 quick questions. 1, is the company priced like a premium business or a cheap one? And 2, is it actually producing strong profitability, margins, returns, and earnings? If you see some values marked NA, that usually means that specific metric isn't available for the current data feed or time frame, but you still have enough here to get a solid fundamentals read. Right below is the key derived metrics. This is a summarized computed view that's meant to be even more actionable. You'll see things like implied price, implied revenue, implied EBITDA, net margin, earnings growth, and even short interest change. This is super helpful when you don't want to interpret 10 different ratios. You just want the so what version. Growth direction, profitability strength, and whether market positioning looks stretched or reasonable. And at the bottom, you get quick context, sector, industry, employees, audit risk, just extra fundamentals framing, especially when comparing companies side by side. Now, inside financials, you also have 3 sub-tabs, earning and EPS, income and margins, and cash flow. Let's go through each. So your first section is earnings and EPS. This is about whether the company is actually delivering compared to expectations. This chart compares actual EPS versus estimated EPS by quarter. The line shows the surprise percentage, so you can quickly see whether the company is consistently beating estimates or missing. Consistent beats usually mean strong execution and often lead to upward revisions. Consistent misses can be a warning sign even if the story sounds good. Below that is the historical earnings results. Quarter by quarter, you can see actual, estimate, the difference, and the surprise percent, plus a simple beat-miss label. And then you've got the forward estimates and revisions. This is forward-looking consensus. You can see projected EPS, year-over-year growth, revenue estimates, and the change. This is where you track whether expectations are improving or rolling over. Now, scrolling back up, your next tab is income and margins. This is the quality of earnings view, how much revenue is coming in and how much of it is turning into real profit. Here you can see the revenue versus net income over time. If revenue grows but net income doesn't follow, margins may be compressing. If both rise together, that's usually a stronger, healthier trend. Below is profitability margins, gross, operating, and net margin trends. This is one of my favorite quick checks because margins tells you how strong the business model really is over time. Now finally, you have your cash flow tab. This tab is where you'd normally see operating cash flow, free cash flow, and cash trend breakdowns. If it shows no cash flow data available, it just means we don't have that feed for this ticker right now in this view. But you still have earnings performance and margin trends above, which already cover a lot of what most investors look for. That's the financials tab. Next, we'll move into ownership, where we look at who's holding the stock and how that's changing. So go ahead and scroll back up and switch over to the ownership tab if you're following along. All right, now we're in the ownership tab. This is where we stop looking at price targets and financial statements and we look at actually who is buying and holding the stock, insiders and institutions. First up is insider activity. This is the raw summary of insider transactions over the selected period, how much insiders bought, how much they sold, and the net difference. Think of this as a quick pulse check. Are insiders, as a group, adding exposure or trimming it? On the right is the deeper layer, detailed insider transactions analysis. This takes insider buying and selling and converts it into a single insider sentiment score. You'll see the score on a range from negative 1.0, which is strong bearish, to positive 1.0, which is strong bullish. And it also gives you a simple label, like strong bearish, so you can interpret it instantly. Below that is the sentiment breakdown. Core sentiment is value weighted, so bigger buys and sells matter more. Breadth score is a participation-based score, So how many distinct insiders are buying versus selling? And then you have the unique buyers and the unique sellers, which literally counts how many different insiders were on each side. So ideally, you want to see meaningful buy value and multiple unique buyers, not just one small buy. Then we show weighted transaction values, buy pressure versus sell pressure, after adjusting for insider roles and common programmatic selling patterns. And if you want transparency, the methodology is right here. Core sentiment and breadth are weighted, and insider roles are weighted differently. Also, certain types of automated or scheduled sales are discounted because they don't always reflect discretionary conviction. Now that's insiders. Next we look at the big money side, institutional holders. This table shows the top institutional holders, firms like Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, and others. For each institution, you can see the report date, ownership percentage, their position size, estimated value, and the quarter-over-quarter change, which tells you if they added or reduced their position recently. What I look for here is who's consistently increasing exposure and whether the biggest holders are steady or trimming. Quarter-over-quarter change is one of the best behavior signals in this section. And at the bottom, you get a really clean summary. Total institutions tracked in this table, the weighted average QOQ change, which summarizes whether institutions are net accumulating or distributing, and total ownership percentage shown here, so you can see how much of the stock is held by the institutions included in this view. Now that's ownerships, insiders on one side, institutions on the other. Next up is filings, where we'll look at the actual reported documents and disclosures that drive a lot of these changes. Scrolling back up, we are now in the Filings tab. This is basically your direct line to what the company is officially reporting to the SEC, so you can verify major events and read the source documents, not just summaries. This section is recent SEC filings. It's a simple table with the date, the filing type, and the title. If you click any title, you can jump into that specific filing and read the details. This is useful when you want the why behind a big move, like a major announcement, a quarterly report, or a proxy update. When you click on these links, it'll just open up a new tab with the information that you're looking for. Here are the main filing types you'll see most often and what they usually mean. 8-K. This is an event update filing. Companies use it to report material events. So if something important happens, it often shows up here. 10-Q. This is the quarterly financial report, revenue, profit, risks, and a lot of detail. 10-K. This is the annual report, basically the most complete version of the company's financials and risk disclosures. DEF 14A, proxy. This is voting in governance, board items, executive compensation, shareholder proposals. Finally, S8 or S3. These are registration filings, often related to issuing shares, employee plans, or offerings. So if you're ever trying to confirm what actually changed, this is where you go. It's the cleanest way to separate rumors from official disclosures. And the reason that matters is filings often explain what drives the shifts you saw earlier, like changes in analyst targets, insider activity, or institutional positioning. All right. Now that we've covered the official filings, the last tab here is options, where we look at the options market data and what it may be implying. So go ahead and scroll back up and meet me in options. So the last tab, options, helps you understand what the options market looks like for a specific expiration, where volume and open interest are concentrated and how calls and puts are priced across strikes. Up here is the options chain analysis. First, we're looking at the selected expiration. You can change that using the expiration dropdown at the top. That matters because the entire options picture changes depending on how far out you're looking. Right underneath that, you'll see the current stock price. That's the reference point for what's in the money and out of the money. And if you want the platform to summarize the options positioning for you, click on Generate AI Options Flow Analysis. That creates an AI-generated read on what the chain is implying, without you having to manually interpret every strike. Now this chart is calls, volume and open interest distribution. Two things matter here. One, volume tells you what traders are actively trading right now. It's more short term. Two, open interest shows how many contracts are currently open at each strike. This tends to be more about positioning. So how do you read this? Well, the vertical marker shows where the current price is sitting relative to strikes. So you can quickly see which call strikes are clustered above or below price. When you see big concentration at certain strikes, those levels can act like magnets or key zones simply because so many contracts are sitting there. Now this next chart is the same idea but for puts. Again, volume is what's actively trading and open interest is existing positioning. If you see heavy put open interest at specific strikes, those are important levels to pay attention to, especially into expiration. Now let's move on to the chain table. First, the calls tab. Each row is a strike price, and across the row you'll see last traded price, bid and ask, mid price and the spread, which is a quick liquidity check, then volume and open interest, IV, which is implied volatility, and finally, whether that contract is ITM or not. I personally use the spread, volume, and open interest as a quick filter. Tighter spread and higher volume, or OI, usually means more liquidity. And at the bottom, you'll get totals like total call volume, total open interest, how many contracts are in the money, and the average implied volatility for the selected expiration. Then the puts tab is the same layout, just for put contracts. Same idea. Check spread for liquidity, look at volume for what's active today, and open interest for where the positioning is stacked. If puts show heavy open interest at certain strikes, that often signals key downside levels traders are watching, especially near expiration. And finally, here is a short interest trend. This shows short interest as a percentage of float over time. This is more of a broader positioning indicator. Rising short interest can mean increased bearish positioning or hedging, and falling short interest can mean shorts covering. So that's the options tab, distributions for calls and puts, the full chain with liquidity and positioning, and a short interest trend check. And that completes the full AI Insights dashboard walkthrough, overview through options. That's the AI Insights tab. If you want more walkthroughs like this, drop a comment with the ticker you want me to cover next.